Okay, 1 Kings chapter 10, verse 1 there, it says, "And when the queen of Sheba heard of the fame of Solomon concerning the name of the Lord, she came to prove him with hard questions." So the first thing I want to talk about is why she came. Why this queen from who knows how far away she was came to visit Solomon. And notice what it doesn't say. It doesn't say she came because of what's, Solomon was so great about animals or great about plants or anything. It's concerning the name of the Lord, okay? She heard of the fame of Solomon concerning the name of the Lord. So it was God that actually brought her there. It was that Solomon was obviously a good preacher, right? He has a couple of books of the Bible. He wrote, a lot of the Proverbs are his, and Ecclesiastes and Song of Solomon. So there are, he was a good preacher, and that's why she came, because she heard about Solomon concerning the name of the Lord. And obviously, there's other reasons, but it says she came to prove him with hard questions. So I don't think she came to prove him with hard questions like, what's the diameter of the earth, or what speed it's going, or is the sun going around the earth, or the earth going on. Maybe she, but I think the hard questions were probably had to do with Scripture as well. Because that's why she came, concerning the name of the Lord. And she probably heard him, asked him all number of questions. But it's interesting that she heard about him because concerning the name of the Lord. And she came to Jerusalem with a very great train. Okay, so for you kids that don't know what this means, okay, or maybe there's some adult that doesn't know. When it says a great train, that's not like a locomotive or a train that goes choo-choo, right? That it's a train. This means she had a long row of animals. Like she had a train of camels. So you have a camel and another one, however many. It's in a long train of camels, and with camels that bear spices and very much gold and precious stones. And when she was come to Solomon, she communed with him of all that was in her heart. So I think this was also a trading mission. Later it says that she gave King of Solomon 120 talents of gold. So that was a lot of gold. And I don't think it was just a gift, because obviously she got a bunch of things in return. Like this is, she's receiving different things. She's bringing these spices that they don't even have in that land, and all this gold and precious stones and so on. And I think we take spices for granted. Like for us, cinnamon or ginger or whatever. Back then spices was actually, had a lot of value, and even today certain spices will, aren't exactly cheap. So verse 3, "And Solomon told her all her questions. There was not anything hid from the king which she told her not." So in other words, he answered every single question. She did not stump him. Remember, he was the wisest person at that time, but not only at that time, even till now. He was the wisest person that ever lived, obviously, besides Jesus. And then when she had finished asking all the questions, it says in, actually before we get to that, let's look at verse 4. "And when the queen of Sheba had seen all Solomon's wisdom and the house that he had built." So it wasn't just that she heard him talk, but she saw the results, saw the fruit of Solomon's wisdom. Verse 5, "And the meat of his table, and the sitting of his servants, and the attendance of his ministers, and their apparel, and his cupbearers, and his ascent by which he went up unto the house of the Lord, there was no more spirit in her." So that doesn't mean she died. That means she didn't have any more inclination to prove how, try to stump him or try to prove him with hard questions. She knew, it was true what she heard. It wasn't like she was going to prove him wrong anymore. I'm not saying she did at the beginning, but she definitely didn't, believe everything she had heard, and she wanted to see if it was really true. And so now when she had seen all this, there's no more spirit in her. She doesn't have any more passion for finding out if it was true. Verse 6, "And she said to the king, It was a true report that I heard in mine own land of thy acts and of thy wisdom. Howbeit I believed not the words until it came, and mine eyes had seen it, and behold, the half was not told me. Thy wisdom and prosperity exceedeth the fame which I heard. Happy are thy men, happy are these thy servants, which stand continually before thee, and that hear thy wisdom. And one thing to note here is that Solomon's servants are happy. And I think, it is a delight to serve a righteous king. And Solomon at that time was righteous, and his servants were happy to serve him. Just like when Jesus comes back, we'll be happy to serve him. It will not be a chore. We're going to be happy to do whatever Jesus tells us to do. And besides the fact at that time, we're not going to get tired or anything. So doing work, we probably feel it, but we won't get tired, right? So it's interesting. And because Solomon is a picture of Jesus Christ's millennial reign, it's interesting. These people are happy and they're serving him. They're serving a righteous king, and Jesus is the King of all kings, and he's going to be the most righteous of anybody. Verse 9, Blessed be the Lord thy God, which delighted in thee to set thee on the throne of Israel, because the Lord loved Israel forever. Therefore made he thee king to do judgment and justice. So, because the Lord loved Israel forever, therefore made he thee king. So, God loved Israel, and therefore they got a good king. Like, they were doing good in David's time, and therefore they got a good king in Solomon. And as far as leadership goes, we get what we deserve what we get, and we get what we deserve. When we have a bad leader, it's because our country is wicked. If we have some, limp-wristed drama teacher for a leader, it's because we deserve it. We've been killing babies for who knows how long. We've, been, having divorces, and divorces isn't even such a big thing anymore because people are just living together without even bothering to get married. So if you see some kind of statistics where the divorce rates have leveled off or they've gone down, it's just because people don't even bother. It's not even, respected enough thing anymore that people even bother. It's just they live together and that's it. And so, and then to top that off, we deserve it because sodomy has been allowed in Canada even before in the U.S. It's just these weird things that people have accepted and don't stand up for enough, and so we deserve the wicked leadership that we have. And you say, well, how can we change it? Can we vote in some? Can we vote conservative next time? Well, guess what? The conservatives are just as wicked. When have they ever stood up for abortion? Never, right? They maybe pay some lip service to it. And, even taking away our rights, did you know it was a conservative prime minister that brought in gun control, Kim Campbell? It's, the conservatives want to pretend to be, have Christian values, but, they're just as wicked as the liberals. And we get what we deserve when it comes to leadership. And because God loved Israel at this time, he gave them a good king. Okay? And actually turn to Isaiah chapter 3, and we'll see this concept. And leadership is just a cross-section of what society is. I don't think it's ever better than what society is. And if it is ever better, it's a gift from God, like to have that blessing. But if you're there in Isaiah 3, let's start in verse 1. For behold, the Lord of hosts, doth take away from Jerusalem and from Judah the stay and the staff, the whole stay of bread, and the whole stay of water, the mighty man and the man of war, the judge and the prophet and the prudent and the ancient, the captain of 50 and the honorable man and the counselor and the cunning artificer and the eloquent orator. So all these important and skilled people, God's taking them away from Jerusalem and away from Judah. In verse 4, and I will give children to be their princes, and babes shall rule over them. You see the picture there? He's going to allow children to be their leaders, and he's going to allow babies to rule over them. And the people shall be oppressed, every one by another, and every one by his neighbor. The child shall behave himself proudly against the ancient, and the base against the honorable. That's kind of like what happens nowadays. Kids don't even respect their parents or their elders anymore. When a man shall take hold of his brother of the house of his father, saying, Thou hast clothing, be thou our ruler, and let this ruin be under thy hand. And that day shall he swear, saying, I will not be an healer, for in my house is neither bread nor clothing. Make me not a ruler of the people. Look at verse 8. And here we can see why children are their princes and babes will rule over them. For Jerusalem is ruined and Judah is fallen, because their tongue and their doings are against the Lord, to provoke the eyes of his glory. So because their tongue and their doings are against the Lord, that's why God is allowing this to happen, where they have weak leadership, they don't have wise leadership. It's because, people are been going against God. And, the people that are at least saved would follow God, right? If our brothers and sisters, including us, we would humble ourselves and live for God, then God will heal our land, okay? But because Judah and Jerusalem, they provoked God, their tongue and their doings were against the Lord, that's why he allowed that. We'll keep reading there a little bit. Verse 9, the show of their countenance doth witness against them, and they declare their sin as Sodom. They hide it not. Woe unto their soul, for they have rewarded evil unto themselves. Say ye to the righteous that it shall be well with him, for they shall eat the fruit of their doings. Woe unto the wicked, it shall be ill with him, for the reward of his hand shall be given him. In verse 12, as for my people, children are their oppressors, and women rule over them. O my people, they which lead thee cause thee to err, and destroy the way of thy paths. So not only is it children that are leading them, it's women, right? And God does not suffer a woman to have authority over a man, but here he's allowing it because of their wickedness, okay? And when we have a woman in a leader, like Kim Campbell, for instance, it's because we have a wicked country. And when England had, Margaret Thatcher, it's because they had a wicked country. And I'm not saying it's any better now that they have a man, but and even when people bring up the fact, or when you talk about that you shouldn't have women pastors, and talk about, women shall rule over them, like so many even churches that call themselves Baptists want to have women pastors, and it's because it's so far downhill. God's allowing them to have a woman pastor. But people want to bring up like Deborah and. Trying to think of another example, but Deborah, well, God allowed that for Deborah to be a ruler because of the downgraded state, the wicked state of the country. So we get what we deserve, and actually we get less than we deserve. We deserve worse than that guy with the weird socks out east. But let's get back to 1 Kings chapter 10. 1 Kings chapter 10, in verse 10. And she gave the king 120 talents of gold, and of spices very great store, and precious stones. There came no more such abundance of spices as these which the queen of Sheba gave to King Solomon. So never again was there so much spices as what Sheba, the queen of Sheba, brought to Solomon. And the navy also of Hiram, that brought gold from Ophir, brought in from Ophir great plenty of almug trees and precious stones. And the king made of the almug trees pillars for the house of the Lord. And so these are not the molten ones that were in the in the front, in the port, like in the entrance there. These are ones like that would hold up beams or rafters or something like that. Made pillars, almug trees, pillars for the house of the Lord and for the king's house, harps also and psalteries for singers. There came no such almug trees, nor were seen unto this day. You say, well, big deal, it's a tree, who cares? Well, if you've done any kind of woodworking, you can appreciate fine wood and the different green. And if it's something you haven't seen before, and especially beautiful, and these almug trees, obviously, there wasn't a common thing, and they can make beautiful musical instruments out of this wood, and they made pillars for the house of the Lord. And Solomon's getting all these riches, and God's blessing him because he sought the Lord. Verse 13, and King Solomon gave unto the queen of Sheba all her desires. So it's not just a one-way, transaction here. Whatsoever she asked, beside that which Solomon gave her of his royal bounty, So she turned and went to her own country, she and her servants. Now the weight of gold that came to Solomon in 1 year was 606 talents of gold. Now this number, I don't know how it ties in with Solomon, but obviously the mark of the beast is the same number, 666. And the only thing I can think of is as Solomon pictures the reign of Jesus Christ, but I think towards the end he also pictures the Antichrist when he was wicked. And I'm not 100% sure about that. The only other place besides Revelation and when it's talking about Solomon that number is found in the Bible, I think is one place where it talks about all the people that came back from Babylon, and a certain group happened to be 666 people. And I think they were maybe the children of the servants of Solomon. I think it was in Ezra. Okay, verse 15. Decide that he had of the merchantmen, and the traffic of the spice merchants, and of all the king of Arabia, and of the governors of the country. So that's 606 talents of gold. That's beside that what he got from the merchantmen that came in. So it's like from voyages and from kings and stuff. It seems like that's where he got those 666 talents of gold. Verse 16, and King Solomon made 200 targets of beaten gold. 600 shekels of gold went to one target. And he made 300 shields of beaten gold. 3 pounds of gold went to one shield, and the king put them in the house of the forest of Lebanon. So why would you make a shield of gold? Well, why not? If you got so much gold, like, you got to do something with it, right? I mean, you can just keep it in stacks, but I don't know. As a soldier, to have a shield of gold, it's like, I know there's one kind of shields were called targets, but like it was like you'd be a target if you're carrying a target or a shield of gold, because somebody wants to kill you so they can get your shield and get some money, right? 3 pounds of gold. Just imagine, I don't know if their pound was the same as what we have now, but 12 ounces, 36 ounces of gold, and that's over $1,000 each now, right? So $36,000 over that, today's money, just for killing one guy, and they're fighting a war anyway, right? And obviously this didn't last. Like Israel's treasure, flew away. But so 3 pounds of gold went to one shield, and that 3 pounds is, if you're right-handed, you're holding it in your left hand, you got a big sword in the other hand. 3 pounds is still maneuverable. I don't know how big it was, but what's nice about this 3 pounds of gold is that we can figure out how heavy a shekel is. Because in 2 Chronicles chapter 9, it gives the same account, but it uses shekels to measure the shield. And King Solomon made 200 targets of beaten gold. 600 shekels of beaten gold went to one target. And 300 shields made he of beaten gold. 300 shekels of gold went to one shield, and the king put them in the house of the forest of Lebanon. So 300 shekels, 3 pounds. So 100 shekels per pound. So a shekel is a 1/100th of a pound. 1 Kings 10 verse 18. Moreover, the king made a great throne of ivory and overlaid it with the best gold. Now I don't know if I understand this. A great throne of ivory. Just imagine like how many elephants they would have to kill, or at least cut the tusks off, just to make a throne of ivory. And he didn't just have like a small little lawn chair throne. He had a big throne. Like you talked about these lions that were on like there's 2 lions, and then there's another 12 lions, okay? And they're all on the side of these steps, and this fancy throne. And you think, well, ivory, like that's expensive. Like you can't even buy ivory nowadays. I think they banned it because they didn't want elephants to die. Like I don't even know if you can get an old chess set with ivory pieces. If you could, it'd be really expensive, but I don't even know if they legally allow you to buy it anymore. But expensive throne. But what does he do? He overlays it with the best gold yet. So it's like you got expensive plated expensive. That's like you would have something made out of platinum, and then you would plate it with gold yet, kind of thing, or vice versa. So you got this $1 million car, and then let's just gold plate it right away. Like it's already fancy, but then he's making it even more fancy and expensive. Verse 19, it starts to explain the throne. The throne had 6 steps, and the top of the throne was round behind. So it wasn't just a straight one, it was like rounded behind. And there were stays on either side on the place of the seat, and 2 lions stood beside the stays. And 12 lions stood there on the one side, and on the other, upon the 6 steps, there was not the like made in any kingdom. And there's so much symbology, so many pictures. You wouldn't be able to go into all of it, and I don't understand all of it. But there's 12 lions on there. Well, when Jesus comes back, set his earthly kingdom, the apostles are going to reign with him, I believe. So over the 12 tribes, and maybe, or there's 12 tribes, so 1 lion per tribe, right? So there's different things it could mean. Verse 21, and all Solomon's drinking vessels were of gold, and all the vessels of the house of the forest of Lebanon were of pure gold. None were of silver. It was nothing accounted of in the days of Solomon. It's like, we don't even bother with silver. We got so much gold. Why would you even bother making a cup out of silver? It wasn't accounted like it was any big deal. Well, you got silverware? No, we got goldware, right? And obviously, I don't know if the common man would have that, but anyway, anywhere in the palace, their drinking vessels were of gold. And I've drank, I forget if it was tea or water or whatever. I think it was tea I had out of a gold cup. Somebody, I think they were trying to impress me or something, and I didn't even want to use this gold cup. I was scared I was going to scratch it, right? Because you hear how soft gold is and stuff like that. But no, I guess he wanted to impress me. He let me drink from his gold cup, and I don't know. I'd rather just drink from a plastic cup or something that I don't have to worry about damaging, or a ceramic cup. But why would you make it out of silver if you got gold, right? If you got something good, why are you gonna make it out of inferior? Like, why would you build a piano out of fir if you got mahogany or something? And that's a bad example, because actually spruce is a cheap wood, but spruce is actually a wood that people make instruments out of because of the sound characteristics. And I don't know, but pianos and violins I think maybe spruce, but guitars for sure, there's spruce ones. So Solomon wasn't the king that just accumulated this wealth and he didn't use it. Like so many people that have all this money, it's like they're gathering it just for their next generation that they can spend it, because they're too stingy to spend it. But here's Solomon, make good cups out of it. What's the big deal? You still have the gold, right? If people use it, big deal. Scratch it, melt it down, make a new one, right? Okay, so let's go to verse number 22. So gold was nothing accounted of, or sorry, silver was nothing accounted of. Verse 22, for the king had at sea a navy of Tarshish with the navy of Hiram. Once in 3 years came the navy of Tarshish, bringing gold and silver, ivory, and apes and peacocks. So I don't know where Tarshish is. It does sound kind of like Tarsus, like remember where Paul was from? Might be, might not be, but he's used, the king of Israel is using this navy of Tarshish. And it might have even been from in their country, but I don't think so. So once in 3 years came the navy of Tarshish, bringing gold and silver, ivory, and apes and peacocks. Not only this great wealth of gold and silver, but and ivory. They're also bringing animals, like interesting animals for Solomon, and beautiful animals, right? Peacocks are beautiful animals, and to have to adorn the palace courtyard or whatever. They're beautiful animals, and apes, I don't know, for pets maybe, right? So King Solomon exceeded all the kings of the earth for riches and for wisdom. And all the earth sought to Solomon to hear his wisdom, which God had put in his heart. And they brought every man his present, vessels of silver and vessels of gold, and garments and armor and spices, horses and mules, a rate year by year. So all the earth sought to Solomon. Like, it sounds like all the kings of the earth, or they would at least send somebody in their place to go to Solomon and to hear his wisdom. Now, and it says every man brought his present. You know what this reminds me of is when Jesus was born and the people brought presents. What they bring? Gold, frankincense, and myrrh, right? And, you know, Solomon is a picture of, you know, the millennial reign of Christ. And there's, turn to, let's see here. Turn to Zechariah 14. Zechariah 14. So Solomon had, you know, together with the navy of Hiram, and he used the navy of Tarshish, and, you know, every 3 years they come back with a load of treasure, right? And when it says a navy, it's not just one ship, right? It's like a flotilla or whatever you call, like a big group of ships. What's the other word? Yeah, fleet, right? A fleet of ships. There's another one, Arma something. Anyway. It might come to me later. So anyways, here is this navy, and it's not like they go, come back, and then they wait another 2 years, and then they go. No, like they probably went out there, gathered the treasure, and then they came back 3 years. It's not like they just gold, they can just, okay, load it at the dock, and then let's go again. And not just that, they didn't have diesel power, they didn't have nuclear, they're using sailboats, right? Or maybe some of them have paddles, but I think sailboats. And they got all this treasure. Now Jehoshaphat, he tried this later too. And he made ships of Tarshish to go back to Ophir for gold, but God didn't bless it, right? The ships just got broken, so it didn't work for Jehoshaphat. 2 Chronicles 9, you know, this account is told of too, and you know, in verse 23 it says, "And all the kings of the earth sought the presence of Solomon to hear his wisdom that God had put in his heart, and they brought every man his present, vessels of silver and vessels of gold, and raiment, harness and spices, horses and mules, a rate year by year." So it sounds like every year he got presents from them. So it's like he had a worldwide kingdom. All these kings, you know, were bringing basically tribute to him or presents to have his favor. Let's look at Zechariah chapter 14. Let's look at verse 8. "And it shall be in that day that living water shall go out from Jerusalem." So right away you should be able to tell. This isn't what some people might want to say, you know, this is when Israel gets back in the land. And this is, you know, where living waters are going out from Jerusalem. And Jesus Christ is the one that gave people living waters. And in this day, living water shall go out from Jerusalem, half of them toward the former sea, and half of them toward the hinder sea. In summer and in winter shall be. And the Lord shall be king over all the earth, and that day shall there be one Lord and his name one. So right away there you can tell, okay, this is a millennial reign, right? Or later, at least. So, because Jesus Christ can be king over all the earth. Right now he's not, right? You have the prince of the world, and Jesus is going to put all kingdoms under his feet. Verse 10, "And all the land shall be turned as a plain from Geba to Rimmon, south of Jerusalem, and it shall be lifted up and inhabited in her place from Benjamin's gate unto the place of the first gate, unto the corner gate, and from the tower of Hananiel unto the king's winepress." And listen to this, "And man shall dwell in it, and there shall be no more utter destruction, but Jerusalem shall be safely inhabited." That's not, right now, Jerusalem's not safely inhabited. So this is not talking about Israel coming back in 1948. Let's skip ahead to verse 14. "And Judah also shall fight at Jerusalem, and the wealth of all the heathen round about shall be gathered together, gold and silver and apparel in great abundance. And so shall be the plague of the horse, of the mule, of the camel, and of the ass, and of all the beasts that shall be in these tents is this plague. And it shall come to pass that every one that is left of all the nations which came against Jerusalem shall even go up from year to year to worship the King, the Lord of hosts, and to keep the Feast of Tabernacles." So do you see the similarity here? There's a king, well, all the nations that are left, right, they're coming every year to worship the King. And this is what happened to Solomon. People were bringing gifts year by year. So we can see how Solomon is a picture of Jesus Christ in the millennium. Isaiah chapter 60 is a similar passage. Let's look at Isaiah chapter 60. We'll kind of skip around in it. It's a little bit of a long chapter. Isaiah 60 verse 1, Arise, shine, for thy light is come, and the glory of the Lord is risen upon thee. For behold, the darkness shall cover the earth, and gross darkness the people. But the Lord shall arise upon thee, and his glory shall be seen upon thee. And the Gentiles shall come to thy light, and kings to the brightness of thy rising. Lift up thine eyes round about and see. All they gather themselves together, they come to thee. Thy son shall come from far, and thy daughter shall be nursed at thy side. Then thou shalt see and flow together, and thine heart shall fear and be enlarged, because the abundance of the sea shall be converted unto thee. The forces of the Gentiles shall come unto thee. Look at verse 6. The multitude of camels shall cover thee, the dromedaries of Midian and Ephah. All they from Sheba shall come. They shall bring gold and incense, and they shall show forth the praises of the Lord. See, again, they're bringing gifts. People from all different nations, and he even mentions Sheba by name, and that's the Queen of Sheba came to visit King Solomon. All the flocks of Kedar shall be gathered together unto thee, the rams of Nebaioth shall minister unto thee. They shall come up with acceptance on mine altar, and I will glorify the house of my glory. Who are these that fly as a cloud and as the doves to their windows? Surely the isles shall wait for me, and the ships of Tarshish first. See, here we go again. The ships of Tarshish is very similar. To bring thy sons from far, their silver and their gold with them, unto the name of the Lord thy God, and to the Holy One of Israel, because he hath glorified thee. You say, well, that's just, coincidence that ships of Tarshish are mentioned, Sheba is mentioned, but I see this as Solomon's reign was a picture of the coming reign of Christ. And remember how happy Solomon's servants were, and we're going to be super happy as well. It's going to be fun. It's going to be great. It's not going to be a drudgery. It's not going to be tiring and oh, I got to go to work. It's, yes, I get to go to work. Or I don't know. There's no night there. So in the city, I don't know if you work 24-hour shift or what. You're not going to get tired, right? So drop down to verse 17. For brass I will bring gold, and for iron I will bring silver, and for wood brass, and for stones iron I will also make the officer's peace and thine exactor's righteousness. So here we see again, like Solomon had gold instead of silver. He just had so much gold. Why bother with silver? Here's like instead of brass, he's just going to bring you gold. Never mind silver, and brass, just gold, right? For iron I will bring silver. So instead of iron, you got silver. It's like there's lots of iron in this world and not so much silver. But here it's like it's going to be so much in plenty. Here, why not just take silver? At least if it's useful for the job, right? For wood, brass, and for stones, iron. It's going to be a time of prosperity, and we're going to have a great government. We're going to have an efficient government. We're not going to have a government that's wasting a lot of money. And I don't know why I point east when I talk about governments wasting money. But anyway, let's go to Psalm 72. Psalm chapter 72. Psalm number 72. And that's the last place we'll go. Psalm 72. And I believe Psalm 72 is talking about the millennial reign of Christ as well. And notice what it says there. I think at least it says in all the Bibles, but the title is a Psalm for Solomon. So this is talking to Solomon, but you can tell it's talking about the millennial reign of Christ. Give the king thy judgments, O God, and thy righteousness unto the king's son. He shall judge thy people with righteousness, thy poor with judgment. The mountains shall bring peace to the people, and the little hills by righteousness. He shall judge the poor of the people. He shall save the children of the needy, and shall break in pieces the oppressor. They shall fear thee as long as the sun and moon endure throughout all generations. Well, right there's one of your first clues. Maybe there's other ones I skipped over. But fear thee as long as the sun and moon endure. This isn't just talking about Solomon, okay? We're going to fear Jesus Christ as long as the sun and moon endure, right? Forever. He shall come down like rain, it says throughout all generations. He shall come down like rain upon the mown grass, as showers that water the earth. In his days shall the righteous flourish, and abundance of peace, so long as the moon endures. So yeah, in Solomon's time, the righteous flourished, right? It was, a great time to be alive. Especially a righteous. You didn't have this wicked government ruling over you. You didn't have all these people worshiping idols because they would be punished. And that's the same way in the millennial kingdom. Like, wickedness is going to be punished like quickly. It's not going to be allowed to get worse and worse and worse. No, Jesus Christ is going to rule with a rod of iron. There's not going to be any pride parades, okay? They're going to get stoned before they get that far. Verse number 8. He shall have dominion also from sea to sea, and from the rivers unto the ends of the earth. They that dwell in the wilderness shall bow before him, and his enemies shall lick the dust. And listen to this here in verse 10. The kings of Tarshish and of the isles shall bring presents. The kings of Sheba and Seba shall offer gifts. So doesn't this sound like Solomon? Well, guess what? In Solomon's time, it was the queen of Sheba, right? This is talking about the kings of Sheba. And well, maybe later on it was a king of Sheba. Who knows, right? But this is saying the kings of Sheba and Seba. So those aren't, sometimes you think, well, the word sounds so close. It probably is the same word. Well, no. These are separate areas. So Tarshish, Sheba, and Seba shall offer gifts. So here is also one other thing you can learn about this is that Tarshish is a separate nation, right? The king of Tarshish is bringing presents to the king of Israel. Yeah, all kings shall fall down before him. All nations shall serve him. And that's going to be great. Verse 12. For he shall deliver the needy when he crieth, the poor also, and him that hath no helper. He shall spare the poor and needy, and shall save the souls of the needy. He shall redeem their soul from deceit and violence, and precious shall their blood be in his sight. And he shall live, and to him shall be given of the gold of Sheba. Prayer also shall be made for him continually, and daily shall he be praised. And when it talks about this gold of Sheba, obviously I think that's in the millennium, but I think also the gold that Jesus Christ got was very likely from the kingdom of Sheba, right? Maybe one of those kings was even from Sheba, that one of the men that came might have been a king from Sheba. Who knows, right? But the gold of Sheba is, anyways, eventually, when the millennium kingdom is set up, he's going to get from that. And obviously, Solomon got from that gold. Prayer also shall be made from continually, and daily shall he be praised. There shall be an handful of corn in the earth upon the top of the mountains. The fruit thereof shall shake like Lebanon, and they of the city shall flourish like grass of the earth. His name shall endure forever. His name shall be continued as long as the sun, and men shall be blessed in him. All nations shall call him blessed. Blessed be the Lord God, the God of Israel, who only doeth wondrous things. Notice how it transitioned to now talking about the Lord God, right? It sounded like it was kind of like it was talking about the king, but we can tell it's the King of Kings, Jesus Christ. There's like a dual meaning. But blessed be the Lord God, the God of Israel, who only doeth wondrous things. And blessed be his glorious name forever, and let the whole earth be filled with his glory. Amen and amen. The prayers of David, the son of Jesse, are ended. So David was prophesying this about Jesus Christ. It wasn't just about Solomon. And I think we'll end it there. So let's pray. Thank you, God, for the book of 1 Kings chapter 10, and just help us to understand, some of the prophecy there and the different meanings. Help us love your word and help us understand it and help us live according to it. In Jesus' name, amen. Let's